Aloha Pomaikai friends. This is day 3 of First Peas to the Table video. And this video is for upper elementary, so grades 3, 4, or 5. So if you've clicked on this video and you or your student is in kindergarten, 1st or 2nd grade, go ahead and stop this and then go back to the Weebly page for STEAM and look for the appropriate video, day 3 for the lower grades. So this is for the upper grades. Okay, so my upper grade friends, when we left, we were thinking about this book, First Peas to the Table. And if you're just joining us now, go back to the read aloud at the beginning of this section so you know the story. We had gotten to a point in the text where the students in Miss Garcia's class had each been given different pea varieties. And they were starting to think about which peas might be the best for growing. They don't really know anything about the peas yet. They're just kind of looking at their name. So the text says, on Valentine's Day, Miss Garcia brought in 10 different varieties of pea seeds. They had fancy names like Emerald Treasure and Pearls in a Pod. We each got a packet of 20 seeds of one variety, and then we had a trading party. Shakayla ended up with 2 seeds from each variety, but I held on to the 20 I started with. Sweet Victory Peas. That name sounded like a winner to me. So I wondered in our last section together if when you made your prediction, what did you use to decide? Did you just think about the name, Mammoth Melting Sugar, Sugar Ann, or Wando? Or did you look at the peas? I held them all up to you so you could see the shape and the texture. Did that give you some idea about that? You should have the name of one of these varieties in your notebook. I predict the seed will emerge first. So if you haven't done that yet, you might want to go back to the last video and have that ready. It's okay if you don't want to write it down. You can just keep it in your head. But if you want to follow along with me today, make sure you get a piece of paper or a notebook and a pencil. Just write some ideas down or some thoughts down. And it's totally fine to just follow along. You can stop the video if you need to go get that. Okay, I think we're ready to move on. So I'm going to take this down, and I'm also going to take down the pea varieties. And remember that the last time we were together, we talked about an experiment. What makes an experiment? So it's something that will help us answer a question or find something out. But it's a special way of doing it, isn't it? It's a scientific way of testing. So there's going to be some specific steps and some rules about how we do it. And you know the word controls in an experiment. There's going to be some things we want to control. Those are our rules. So let's keep that in mind as we go along and design the experiment. Back to the text. On this page, we can see that the young girl who's planning her strategy has an idea. It reads, Miss Garcia said that we could get a head start by planting some peas inside at home and transplanting them in school at March. But I was going to get a double head start because I'd found a pea growing tip in a copy of Jefferson's garden book, and I was keeping it top secret. Do you remember? I think it's interesting that Thomas Jefferson was such a careful scientist that he wrote down the details of experiment way back in the 1700s, in 1771. That's over 150 years ago. And he wrote down these things for us to learn today. So it's really important if you're a scientist to keep records and write things down. The secret was, in 1771, Jefferson wrote that he soaked his pea seeds in water for 24 hours before planting them. All right, so that's interesting information. What effect do you think soaking the peas might have? Why would he do that? Remember our different varieties. What would happen to these seeds if they were soaked in water? I'm going to ask you now, if you're working along with me, to write down what you think in your notebook. Okay, we're going to make a hypothesis together. So if you're working with me, go ahead and let's start this sentence. And if you're not writing it down, you can still think about it. If the pea seeds are soaked for 24 hours before planting them, then what? What do you think is going to happen? What are some possibilities? Go ahead and stop the video now. Think about it and maybe share your idea with someone. And if you're working along with me, write your idea down in your book. Okay, so you've had a chance to think about what do you think the effect of soaking the peas might be. Here are two ways that I thought. I think I'll leave that in because it's pretty funny. Sometimes crazy things happen when you're making a video. I think there was a little wind, so I might hold this. But here are two possibilities. If the pea seeds are soaked for 24 hours before planting them, the soaked seeds will, than the non-soaked seeds. That's one way of saying it. I might say the soaked seeds will germinate sooner, germinate later, or germinate at the same time as the non-soaked seeds. That might be one way to write your hypothesis. Another idea was if the pea seeds are soaked for 24 hours before planting them, then the effect of soaking will be, and then you can just complete the sentence. What do you think the effect of soaking will be? That the soaked seeds grow sooner, grow later, or there's no change from the unsoaked seeds. So take some time to think about what do you think the effect would be of soaking the pea seeds, and then come back and join me when you've got that. All right, by now you've got your hypothesis, which is your statement, your claim of what you believe will happen. It's not a guess, it's a claim. It's not a question. You're using what you know and you're making a claim. All right. So I'd like to pull these off now. And I want you to think about what are the parts of our experiment? What will be the parts of the pea test? What's going to be important? We know we're needing seeds, right? We've already got those. So we need seed varieties. What else is going to be important? Think about the text. Oh, we're going to need something to grow them in. We're going to call this the growth medium. What are we going to grow it in? We're going to have some way to keep track of our results, to tell what's happening. I wonder what we could do for that. Maybe some sort of data table. Do we know anything about what peas need to grow? Let's just say growth for peas. I don't know. I'll say what are the growth needs? That fits better in my spot. What are the growth needs? Some things I can think about already are like sunshine and water. All right, so these are parts of the test. I might think a little bit more about this. Maybe you could make a few notes in your notebook and add comments to the video if you think of other ones. Because what we're going to do is get back together in our next video, our day 4 video, and design the test. And then I'll make sure to have everything that we can think of ready to put the test in place. So if you're planning on working along with me and designing the test, I think next time that we get together, you should be ready with some other materials. So let's be ready with your notebook and your pencil. Yeah, let's just start with that. Your notebook and pencil so we can ready to design it. Oh, I'm going to need something to soak the seeds in, aren't I? Okay. A way to soak the seeds. Probably some cups with water, some way that I can, try this 24-hour soaking thing. So I'll be ready with that, and I'll see you next time. And we'll continue on with our test. Aloha.